Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Suburban Rifleman. We have kind of a special item right here, which is very, very interesting. If you're someone of my age, you almost certainly grew up in the 1970s. I think it was Sunday nights at 8 p.m. watching Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Now, just yesterday we were out where they were doing an operation where they were darting animals from a helicopter, sedating them, and loading them into trucks for transport to another site. Excuse all the geese in the background. But if you watched Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom back in the day, hosted by Marlin Perkins and his sidekick, Jim, I think. I believe Jim worked for the San Diego Zoo. That was the whole premise of the show, is they were going out and capturing wild animals in places like Africa and South America, all sorts of exotic locations. And the way they were capturing live animals was by using what was basically a net gun. And I have here an example of an old net gun from back in those days. Johan has a couple different examples. They were all built on centerfire rifle actions. This one happens to be a Lee Enfield, made by BSA, and it's a, I believe, #1 Mark III. As you can see, the gun has essentially 4 barrels. It would have been loaded with a blank cartridge, and this collar here was a splitter that would direct the gas from the blank cartridge out each of these 4 barrels. And there was a net, obviously, that was loaded in a very specific way into a sort of fiberglass bucket right in the middle of the 4 barrels. And each corner of the net had a steel weight on it. And those weights were simply loaded into these barrels. They would have been a drop fit back in the day. Oh, that one kind of drops in. I don't want to let it go because I don't want to get stuck in there. But as you can see, it's just a piece of steel rod with a chain link welded to the end of it that was attached to the corner of the net. And so once you had your net loaded in here in a very specific manner, and the 4 corners were loaded into the barrels here, you would load a blank cartridge. This is kind of sticky, I don't want to move the bolt, but you would load a blank cartridge in there, and there would have been a handle attached to this rod, a vertical grip attached to this rod, and you would fire the net at sort of an elevated angle like this, and the net would go out, and it would, because of the angles of the barrels, the net would spread out as it was going, and it would drop over the animal. So obviously, it's kind of dangerous for the animals. It's not a preferred method of catching live animals today. I mean, I don't think it's used at all, to be perfectly honest with you. But this is just a really cool relic. And it's a Lee Enfield that was modified a little bit. It has a bracket welded onto the back of the receiver here to accommodate a pistol grip. And one thing Johan told me is if you were going to fire this, you could not fire it this way because the recoil, as you can imagine, throwing 4 of these enormous steel weights out there is just going to be insane. So you would turn your body sideways and fire the net gun like that. So I guess I don't really have much more to say about it. As I said, this one's a Lee Enfield. There were others that were made with Mauser Model 98 actions. I think basically whatever rifle action they could get a hold of that they could get blank cartridges for would work. So just a really cool thing, and a memento of a time gone by. And as I said, if you were my age, you grew up watching Marlin Perkins catching wild animals on Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and I never in a million years thought I would see one of these in real life. So this is just a really unique opportunity. I'm very thankful to have been able to take a look at this really interesting device. So now I'm going to move on to the next topic. When I post that, I hope to see each of you here then. Later, guys.